All right, welcome to episode 16 of Asset Creators. Today, I'm going to be running a live breakdown of a content system that saves 5+ hours per week, as you've probably seen already in the headline. So this is a system that I've been developing over the last couple of years. I've been teaching my clients to use it. It doesn't only save time, okay? It's going to be very, very useful for you in building authority, going deeper, right? Creating more leverage, going deeper into ideas, things like that. So it's going to be, the time is like the main thing, of course, we want to spend, of course, we all know we need to create content, but we want to spend and be as efficient as possible at spending our time on content versus, making sure that we're predictably getting leads and clients in and fulfilling for those clients, right? So content we don't want our content to be the thing that's, taking up 10, 20 plus hours of our week if, we don't have the time for it. So with that being said, let's get right into it. So essentially what I'm going to do today is I'm going to break down how I discovered the system, kind of how I refined it over time, the heart of the system, which is, an anchor asset. And if you've been following me for any amount of time, you know how big I am into assets. Of course, the name of this show is Asset Creators. And then we're going to go into how the actual system really works. So to start, I'm just going to quickly explain sort of how I discovered it. So a couple of years ago, I was stuck writing content daily. Okay, so I was one of those people who, was writing every single day on a new idea, a new story, a new angle, a new topic, every single day. And so it wasn't necessarily hard for me to sit down and, come up with content ideas and write, but it was just so much time to just have the idea, put it together. It's on a new angle, it's on a new topic every single day, And for me at the time, I was writing like 7 posts a week, right? I wasn't just coming in here writing 1 or 2 posts a week. I was doing it daily. I'm all in. I was all in on my business, right? And so I even tried batch writing. So every Saturday I would sit down and I would try to write all my weekly content at once, but it ended up just taking so much time. Most of the time I didn't even finish it on Saturday. Then I would have to do it on Sunday. And I was just spending, a lot of time. We're talking upwards of 6-7 hours a week, right, on content. So, and that was just for me, somebody who was already, studied copywriting, had already been, fairly proficient. I was ghostwriting for an agency before that. So I was already fairly, experienced at writing. Okay. So then, besides the consumption, besides just the time it took, the time consumption, I hated how my posts would just disappear into the feed after 24 hours. This was literally one of my biggest pain points or things that I was just frustrated with, was just how much I would spend putting into a post, and then the next day, boom, it's gone. And now all the new posts from the new day are there. And it just felt so low leverage, like such a constant chase for attention, right? Which of course, is how social media is. But I just really did not like the fact that within 24 hours, my content was just gone. Poof, disappeared, right? So what I decided was I wanted to create content that wouldn't disappear, right? But create me value over time. I asked myself, how can I actually create content that's going to be valuable longer than just this short amount of time, this 12 to 24 hour window span, right? How could I do that? And so what I've, decided, and of course I didn't come up with newsletters, but I started a weekly long form newsletter, right? That I emailed to my list to deepen trust and authority, okay? And when I mean deepen trust, it's because it's a longer form, right? It's not just like a short form LinkedIn post or a medium form news or email. It was long form. We're talking 1,000 words plus. I would write these newsletters every week, right? And so I would deepen trust, but also my authority, because I was able to just go deeper into my ideas and my topics. And then what I did was I posted it to my blog too. So I would email it out to my list, but then I had a blog where I would post the newsletter as well, which now was becoming a very serious asset for me because, I'm not sitting here saying a lot of my traffic comes from my blog or anything like that, but the power of having it in my blog was even now you can go look at, content I've written 3 years ago on my blog, from 2023, and you can sit there and you could spend hours and hours going through my blogs and consuming my content, spending time with me. But also, if I have someone in the DMs now or a client of mine who has a question about, just for an example, let's say, something about mindset or limiting beliefs. Well, if I wrote a blog on that, 2 years ago, it doesn't matter. I can send them to like, hey, I wrote something about this. Here, this will help you. And I can send them that. It's something that I created once, but it still creates me value, right? The chances of a LinkedIn post you wrote 2 years ago, you sending someone to it and giving them a lot of value is a lot lower, arguably probably 0%. Within 24 hours, that LinkedIn post isn't going to be creating you very much value at all. So, that's why I started doing this. But to make it even better, and this is where the time and saving the time comes in, was I just started to repurpose that newsletter because you know what? Like I said, it was 1,000 words plus, like it was long. And so in that newsletter would be little stories, angles, ideas, or I'd handle objections, right? And remember, this newsletter is based off one big idea or theme for the week, which we're going to get to down here. So there was a lot of little pieces of content that I could take out of that full long piece of content and just repurpose it, right? Like the content was already written. So instead of every single day sitting there coming up with a new topic, a new angle, a new story, I just had this one long form piece that I could just start plucking little chunks from, right? So then I started saving 5+ hours a week on content minimum, right? And then building more leverage because now, okay, think about the leverage here. I'm creating this one long thing. It took me about 2 hours to write it for the whole week. So I write this newsletter, takes me 2 hours, and all of a sudden now I just have mini pieces of content from that. So think about the leverage there, right? I only create this thing once and I can pull all my weekly content from it. But also, right, this is an asset that I could use forever, like I kind of mentioned. I can send you blog posts that are relevant to a problem you have right now from 3 years ago. People can spend hours and hours of time with me, okay? Just from me publishing this to my blog, like creating the asset, right? So the benefits of doing this, right, is I get to go deeper into my ideas to build more authority, credibility, right? Because once again, I can build a lot more authority and credibility in a longer form piece of content than I can in like a 100-word LinkedIn post, right? Double down and hammer home core concepts to my target audience. This is so important. If I have a theme, let's say my weekly theme for my content or for my newsletter, my anchor asset, is how cold outreach is the lowest form of marketing and prospecting you can do, which I absolutely agree with. I think cold outreach is the lowest form, lowest leverage thing you could be possibly doing in your solo business. Okay. If I read a newsletter just going deep into that and talking like, how I used to do it, mistakes that I made, why it's so bad, all of these things, handling objections people have to that idea, all of these things. Well, if I'm pulling those out and writing my content around that for the week, well, now I'm just doubling down on that concept that, Darian believes that cold outreach is the lowest form of prospecting and marketing you can do. And so what's going to happen over time is you're going to start to associate me with ideas. Think about that. Every single week, I'm just going deep and doubling down on ideas and big ideas and themes, right? Versus every single day, I'll write one LinkedIn post about how cold outreach sucks. Then the next day, a story about how I did something else. And then, right, you see what I mean? Like it's so scattered, you don't actually get to be known for anything because you're not going deep and doubling down on concepts and ideas that you have, okay? Then, of course, you're going to save hours of time because the content is already written. You're just repurposing it, right? And then also long form gets your target audience to spend more time with you, which builds trust and familiarity. There's so many studies out coming out now from Google, things like that, that people have to spend a certain amount of time with you before they buy or before they trust you, right? Well, long form naturally is going to encourage people to spend more time with you, okay? And then finally, can get you clients as long as you have it, right? It appreciates in value. And we're going to talk about that in a minute with the anchor asset, but really think about this because right now I'm referring to a newsletter, but it could also be a YouTube video, right? Or a blog, right? So for example, if I create a YouTube video and it goes really deep into a pain point that my target audience has, okay? And at the end of it, or in the description or in the comments, there's a call to action to apply to work with me or to my value asset, right? Well, 2 years from now, somebody might still find that YouTube video that I made 2 years ago and still apply to work with me, right? So like these assets, when you create these long form anchor assets, get you clients like over time for years versus a LinkedIn post that's going to be gone and buried in the algorithm tomorrow. Hopefully by now you're starting to see and understand why I'm so passionate about this, because man, this changed the game for me. This was yes, I am still writing LinkedIn content. I'm not saying don't write content. It's very important to get people to your email list and things like that. But this is going to save you so much time and, obviously everything I just said. So that's kind of how I discovered it, was just my own problem and my own disdain for constantly writing content, spending so much time writing content that was just disappearing, okay? So the heart of the system, before we actually get into the system itself, is going to be an anchor asset. So what is an anchor asset? Well, essentially all it is a weekly long form asset that appreciates, increases in value over time, and gets repurposed into weekly micro content. This alone will change your whole content approach, the way you view content, because you just create one big thing and you just chunk it down. And I kind of already explained by now, is that it appreciates over time. That YouTube video will get you clients for years if you want it to, if you keep it public, right? And also you can just take from it, that YouTube video can just get repurposed into reels, right? So your whole weekly reels could be from that one video, right? If it's a long form video, you can take out reels from that, boom, now you have your micro content for the whole week. So this isn't just for the newsletter. I'm a writer myself, and of course I'm doing these lives now and I'm loving it. But these lives I'm doing themselves are anchor assets for me, right? So that is what an anchor asset is. So examples, kind of already covered this, newsletters, blogs, YouTube videos, things like that. Now, this anchor asset is part of the asset Trinity, the 3 core assets every high leverage solopreneur needs. So if you don't know, what I do at the end of these videos in the LinkedIn post is I'll give you access to this Notion doc so you can have your own copy of it. So you'll be able to click this link. But for a full breakdown of the asset Trinity, check out episode 7, where I went in depth on each of these, not just the systems, more just what they are, why you need them, why they're so important, and why they're so important for high leverage solopreneurs. So you can click that link there. It'll take you right to that episode. And just a brief overview of the asset Trinity so you can see it here is, see if I can unhighlight it there, is the anchor asset, which we're covering right now, right? Which is this long form weekly thing that you make that appreciates in value, okay, and gets repurposed into smaller content. Now, all of that smaller content you create is going to lead everyone to your value asset, which another word for this could be like a lead magnet, right? You're going to give away something of high value in exchange for either people's email, phone number, whatever, ideally just a way to contact them and get them into your owned asset, okay? But really important to understand, the value asset is where your trust is built, right? You're leading with value, you're showing them your expertise, your authority is built here. You're solving a problem for them with this free value asset in exchange for their contact information. So really important distinction there. And then once they sign up for your email list or whatever, you're going to push them into your owned asset. So this could be your email list, a free community, a membership site, anything that you own where you're not reliant on algorithms or, they can't just delete your account. So ideally, all the content you're creating from your anchor asset and systemized to save a bunch of time and all these things I've already mentioned, getting people towards a value asset where they get to your owned asset. And the value asset, once again, is where you build your authority, right? You lead with value, you gain their trust, and then your owned asset. And these are where you start making offers. So many people on LinkedIn or just on social media will connect with somebody and they just try to send them a friggin' cold offer. I'm not saying it doesn't work, just the volume has to be so high. Where with this, it's so high leverage, right? You have this anchor asset, it's feeding people to your value asset, and then they're coming in, you can write an email automation that sells them into your core offer. And, all of that's a little advanced or out of the scope of this video, but that's kind of what each asset does, okay? And in your own asset is where you can make a lot of sales and, sell to people. It's a place that you own, okay? So this anchor asset is the heart of the system that I'm about to show you. So really important that we started with that. So here's how the anchor asset system works. Give you another visual here so you can really kind of, no, it's too much. really kind of see what we're talking about here. So essentially, it starts with your newsletter up top. Once again, this could be a YouTube video, a blog, whatever, right? That gets repurposed into your LinkedIn content and your weekly emails. So my emails are based off my newsletter. And you might be thinking, well, Darian, if you're emailing your newsletter, how the hell are you writing your emails from that newsletter? You've already sent it to them. You're expanding on like the things you pull out, right? So if there's like a little objection that I handle in the newsletter, in my email, I'll like expand on it, right? I'm not just copy and pasting word for word the newsletter thing. You're going to take it and you're going to expand on it a little bit, right? So it's going to be altered a little bit, but now you're not coming up with ideas and angles, and it's all based off the one weekly theme. Now, the LinkedIn content is going to drive to your value asset. I put lead magnet here just because that's more common language people know. And same thing with your weekly emails, but you're going to notice your weekly emails can go to your core offer or your value asset. So what I mean by this is, let's say you join my email list from one specific value asset. Okay? Let's say it's a content writing workshop, because that's one that I had. Now, let's say I create a new value asset. Well, just because you're already on my email list and you came through that asset, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't, or I don't want you to go through my new asset, because once again, it's going to build trust, credibility, authority, all of these things, right? So I can still send people on my email list to my new assets, right? Or assets they haven't joined or taken. But because, email is such a more intimate place, right? It's an owned asset, which is part of the core Trinity, the asset Trinity. I can just directly sell people from my emails to a core offer that I have, like my one-to-one or whatever your core offer is, right? And so that's how this system works. It starts with this anchor here, gets repurposed, drives people here, and then drives them there. So really important to understand this, this concept, this flow, right? Study this, burn it into your brain. Just understand that this anchor asset anchors everything you do. It's how you get email signups. It's how you get people into your owned asset, how you get people to your core offers. If you're watching this and you want to just cold pitch people, fine, right? But this is how you like warm up your leads. You build relationships, you build trust. And then when you sell to people, you're typically not even selling, they're coming to you, right? They're applying to work with you. They're asking you, right? It's not you chasing. You're magnetizing and pulling, which is a whole different way to do marketing, which most people are not doing. So, and remember, the whole goal here is to be like a high leverage solopreneur, right? If you're already past the point where you've worked with people, you're not a beginner, right? You know how to sell, you've been on sales calls. Like the biggest thing you can do is start creating leverage in your business, right? And so this is what that's going to do for you. So essentially, this is how it works. The system is your newsletter, your weekly anchor. I already covered that. It's written on one big idea or theme for the week. So another way I could explain this is, let's say, because I already mentioned the cold outreach, right? Let's say my big thing was, my theme for the week was like, the reason solopreneurs can't get past, 100K or whatever is limiting beliefs, right? This isn't something I've done. It's just an example I'm coming up with right now. Well, I can talk about limiting beliefs here really deep. I can talk about all the things I know. I can cite sources from books I've read, experience I have, all of these things. I can handle objections because, of course, when I tell people any big idea, they're going to have objections. That's what humans do, right? We think of the first objections that come to mind. So I cover all that, right? Well, now I just repurpose all my content taken from that asset into the LinkedIn content here, the weekly emails here. And depending on your strategy, this will determine how many emails you send out, signups you get to your value asset, to your email asset, your owned asset, right? And LinkedIn posts you write. So, let's say for whatever reason, you want to do a shorter newsletter. You want to just do 500 words. Well, it's going to be hard to repurpose that into like a bunch of content. But, keep in mind, this is based off me who writes 7 LinkedIn posts a week, right? Does 3 emails at minimum a week. So it's going to look different for you. If you're somebody who only writes 3 LinkedIn posts, well, good, because this is going to save you like way more time, because now you only have to write 3 posts. So that newsletter gets taken into 3 posts. And so that's how it's going to work. It's going to depend, or like depending on your strategy, it's going to determine how many of these that you get, right? Because of course, if you're writing 7 LinkedIn posts a week and you're plugging your value asset, you're going to get more signups, like obviously, right? If you're writing more LinkedIn posts that are going to this, like, of course, more emails you send with offers, you're going to probably make more money. So that's how this works. Everything will lead to your owned asset, right? Which I already kind of mentioned, an email list, a community you own, a membership site, something like that. And then ultimately to your core offer. So that is the system, and that's how it works. Hopefully I've done a good enough job explaining that you need this, and that, you know, if you really want to take your solo business to the next level and spend less time writing content while still predictably getting and signing more clients, bringing more people to you, this is what you got to do. Because it's not just about saving time, which of course we all want to save time, right? But it's about bringing people to you, magnetizing people versus chasing, right? Can't stress that enough. So this is the system that I've been using. I've been teaching all my clients, and I've been using this system, refining this system over the last couple of years, and it's done me a great service. So I highly recommend that you rewatch this video, get this Notion document, right? Go look through everything that we covered here. Really make sure that you can figure out how you can apply this system into your solo business as soon as possible, because it's going to change the game for you. It's going to save you a lot of time, start bringing clients to you, right? Stop you from chasing, and everything that I mentioned in this video. So thanks so much for being here. That's episode 16. And yeah, really excited the way that the live is going. I'm having a good time doing this. So if you guys are loving this, please let me know like potential episodes, things that you want me to cover in the comments. Let me know if there's an idea or something you want me to go deeper on from this video, from a last video, or just something completely new. And with that being said, that's it for today. Thanks so much for being here.